A 1, 2, 3. Private parts. Macrae. And all her friends talking about the things that doctors rarely say.
Welcome to Private Parts. I'm Macrae and I'm here with Hannah today. Thanks for being here, Hannah.
You are very welcome.
So we're going to talk about your chronic condition today. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is in general and how it impacts you?
Yeah, sure. So I have Spinal Muscular Atrophy. That's the name of my condition, but it's not actually the condition that I have. So it's a bit confusing. So basically I have the symptoms of someone with spinal muscular atrophy, but I've had extensive genetic testing done and case studies done, and I don't have the genetic the gene associated with spinal muscular atrophy. So it's usually something that can be detected by, it's a gene mutation. But yeah, I've had lots of studies done, and I don't have, I guess my DNA, there's nothing sort of unusual in my DNA to explain what's going on. So it's essentially non-genome spinal muscular atrophy.
So so it's not in your DNA.
No.
How did they find out that that was what you had if it's not the norm?
Yeah, so I guess everything sort of started when I was in high school. That was probably when I started showing symptoms. So I had lots of fatigue and muscle weakness, which I guess at the time people, and I myself as well, just thought I was really lazy, a lazy teen. And it wasn't until I was probably in my early 20s where I kind of noticed that physically I wasn't able to move like other people, and I hadn't been able to walk quickly or run or get off the ground from a sitting position or a chair off a sitting position easily. There were sort of all of these like little things, I suppose, that I found out by comparing myself to other people my age. And yeah, it became quite apparent that sort of something wasn't right. So I saw a physio because I think I was maybe about 19 or 20, because I thought that I was just really lazy and I needed to get some exercises to build up my muscle. And so through that, I saw this physio who just by chance had a background in neuro. So she saw my body and she said, yeah, you're right, comparable to other people your age. This is absolutely, something is going on here. We need to get you a referral to see a neurologist. And so I saw a neurologist who sort of concluded the same thing, that, physically I was not at all like my peers. I had significant muscle wastage. I wasn't able to build muscle. I had chronic fatigue as well. And it kind of was all, unexplainable at the time. So once I got in to see the neurologist, that sort of started the testing process. And I had my DNA sent to a testing facility in Perth where they sort of did a full scan of your DNA to see if there's any, I think, they can detect lots of different things. Spinal muscular atrophy, they can usually detect through that. And it came back normal. And so then the next step was, the test really that gave them sort of the answer was a nerve conduction study. So that's a test where I went into hospital and I had a team of neurologists put really, really long, thin needles into different parts all over my body. And it was connected up to a machine that had like a radio frequency on it. So healthy nerves they buzz on the machine, so you can kind of see it all fluttery. That shows that there's good conduction of the nerves, and that they work and that they talk to the muscles. And yeah, when I did the conduction test, there was just nothing. Yeah. So, sorry.
No, please don't. You're just like,
sorry. Yeah. So I kind of knew something was wrong because they had to call a senior doctor to come in the room, and my dad was with me as well. And yeah, they said, you know, this doesn't look good. There's obviously something really wrong here. And yeah, I guess after that, I sort of went home, and it was awful because I knew that like something obviously wasn't right, and then had to wait until my next appointment, in which the neurologist told me that they sort of everything that they had seen was associated with spinal muscular atrophy, even though I didn't have the mutation. And so I guess, yeah, I was diagnosed in 2012, but I kind of it's not really a diagnosis because it wasn't really an answer. I mean, yeah, they knew what was wrong, but it was hard because I kind of I didn't feel like I could be someone with spinal muscular atrophy. I sort of felt I couldn't be in that community, or, you know, that they couldn't be my people because I felt like a bit of a phony, like I don't actually have that. So it was kind of isolating and, yeah, really hard to deal with. And they also, because I don't have the disease, I don't have the genetic mutation, they weren't able to kind of tell me, like, I guess what to expect. They said, this is kind of, you know, this is what the future maybe could look like for you, but we're not entirely sure. We can't kind of give you any, you know, definitive information on it. Yeah. So, yeah, that was 9 years ago.
So in that, you must have felt a little bit of validation for having some kind of idea of what it was, but then kind of having imposter syndrome almost in the space of that illness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, thank you for sharing that with us, because that's full on, and yeah, lots to look into in that space. I really want us to keep doing episodes and unpacking all of these things. I did want to specifically talk to you about, if you feel comfortable, about you've obviously been in a long-term relationship, 6 years.
6 years, yeah.
And I think one of the trickiest things in chronic illness or chronic conditions that people don't really talk to you about is managing a relationship, whether it's romantic, social, family relationships. So can you give us a bit of an idea about, so you had met your partner after this process?
Yeah.
So can you give us a little bit, like, how did you explain that situation when, and then, how you guys navigate life together?
Yeah, so like I said, I was diagnosed in 2012, and I met John at the beginning of 2015. We first started dating. Prior to that, I didn't like to talk about it. I was kind of weirdly going through a grieving process for my body and for my future. I still, I think I really still am going through that process because my condition's degenerative, so it is a slow progression, it's a slow breakdown of my body. And so, you know, it's not like I was sort of given this news and then I could deal with it. I have to, it changes all the time and it progresses all the time. So it's, you know, it's kind of, I guess really frustrating to navigate. But I didn't really talk to anyone about it that I had dated. There were a few people that I told, and then I guess because I wasn't coping with it, they kind of didn't cope with it either. And also I often felt that, you know, it probably scared people off. So when I met John, I had a rule where if I was going to be dating him for more than 3 weeks, then that's when I would tell him. And so, I remember I was living with my parents at the time, and he came over and we were sitting in my bedroom, and I said to him, look, I've got this condition and, you know, this is kind of what it looks like for me. And at the time, my pain was, I had chronic pain, but it probably was, it wasn't as severe as it is now. It's gradually getting worse. So, I sort of just talked about how it impacted me, and obviously my function was better 6 years ago as well. And so, I said, this is my condition. And I kind of expected him to, I knew he was so lovely. He was probably like the nicest guy I've ever known. So I was kind of expecting him to give me like a nice, gentle kind of rejection. But it was actually, what he said was probably the perfect thing anyone could have said to me, which was, okay, I can't promise that I'm going to stick around forever, but I'm going to keep sticking around now.
That is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of, he didn't make me feel like there was anything wrong with me.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was, yeah, he probably didn't know that it had such a profound effect on me, but yeah, it kind of, yeah, I thanked him, and then my mum was in the kitchen and I yelled out, "Mum, he's staying." And she was like, "Good." So yeah, he's kind of stuck around, but it's so hard.
Yeah.
I think the hardest thing for me is that I feel like it's only getting harder. It was probably really easy to navigate at the beginning because I didn't talk about it. It affected me less. My pain wasn't as bad, so my moods were probably, sort of more consistent. It's only getting harder. So in the past 12 months, we've started seeing a relationship counsellor every month because we're trying to deal with being in a long-term relationship and managing things like family and intimacy and in-laws and, all of that shit that like a regular couple would have to navigate. Additional to him needing to be a carer for me and me not wanting that and feeling like a burden and worrying every day that he will leave me.
Yeah.
That's really hard. He tells me that he won't, but yeah, every day I worry. Yeah.
I don't think it's you're pretty remarkable.
Well, yeah, he probably won't. He probably won't leave me for my illness. But yeah, it's so complex. I have a muscle wastage disease, and I have chronic pain and chronic fatigue, and I have anxiety and depression. I had like significant mental illness before I even met him because I grew up in a household with lots of family violence and lots of trauma. And so for me, I guess, trying to navigate all of that stuff, plus be a good partner, plus try not to be too sick and to not try to feel like a burden, it's like exhausting. Plus try to have a job, like hold down a job.
And then life.
Pay a fucking mortgage. Yeah, like be a good friend, be a good sister, be a good daughter, be a good aunt. Yeah, it's a lot.
It's so much. Well, as an outsider, you seem incredibly, to be doing it incredibly well. I'm always inspired.
Thanks, Pete.
So if you could give one piece of advice to a partner of someone who's ill, a friend, or a family member, so you're not coming from the person who's sick perspective, you're coming from the carer, what would you say would be the one thing that they could do, say, whatever, to make someone feel like they're there?
I think it's like, I know it's cliche, but I think for me, just having someone physically there. I think that, John gets really frustrated with himself because most of the time there's not actually anything he can do for me.
Yeah.
So I think that just being there just in case or if you need is a lot. And, I guess it's easy because we live together, but yeah, it's so important to just know that someone's there just in case you need them. Just being physically present, making it known that you're there if they need anything. Yeah. it's cliche and it seems super obvious as well, but I think it can also be, you know, hard. It can be really hard to be around someone who feels terrible and who has terrible moods because they're so unwell. But yeah, just physically being there.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Han.
That's okay. Sorry, I got so.
Wait, no. Let's just, like, for every guest that ever comes on, we're not saying we're sorry for things that we haven't done to anyone and we haven't done wrong. We're not apologising for that in this space.
Okay.
We say sorry way too much in life as women, as non-binary people. We apologise way too much in the medical system. Don't be sorry. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And we'll check back in soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
Love you.
Love you. You're welcome.
Oh, that was so beautiful. Is Gina over there?
I can't.
Thank you so much.
That's okay. Sorry.
No.
No, but I know, but yeah.
That just hit. Was that hitting home for you, Cheeky? Thank you so much for your honesty like that. I was like struggling to get, I didn't even want to look at Gina because I knew Gina would be crying over there. And that is something that both Gina and I have struggled with a lot. And to have that out there, like, people are going to take so much strength from yours and your honesty, you know?
Thanks for having me.
That was just, I was here like, maybe I'll be like, yeah, so like, do you use a hot water bottle or like a wheat bar? What undies do you wear?